Let's go now to Aaron David Miller, Senior Fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. He has served under several secretaries of state as an advisor on Arab-Israeli negotiations, helping to broker peace in the Middle East. Aaron, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on today. I want to get your take on what we see playing out right now. And are you concerned that this will spill out into a bigger regional conflict?
I mean, on the issue of escalation, there's always a concern. So far over the last 3 weeks, and we talk about escalation, we talk about two issues. Number one, a major conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, the Shia militia that operates as the most powerful force in Lebanon with roughly 150,000 to 200,000 high trajectory weapons of varying ranges and lethality. And that's part A. Part B, even more serious, would be involvement of Iran. At this stage, both the Iranians and Hezbollah appear to want to restrain themselves. They're prepared to fight Israel to the last Palestinian. I think Hezbollah does not want to risk its huge assets in Lebanon because they know that Israel will respond incredibly forcefully. Plus, the U.S. has two carrier strike groups in Eastern Med with 200 Stryker aircraft. And chances are we would be drawn into that, or if it truly escalated between Israel and Iran, I don't see any way the United States would stay out of it. With respect to Iran, and you could end up with a regional crisis that could involve the Gulf, plunging financial markets, rising oil prices, a lot of death and destruction.
Yeah, I mean, is there any way to get this under control? We know, speaking of Iran, just issued that stark warning to Israel and the U.S. saying that red lines have been crossed. Aaron, what exactly does that mean? And how should the U.S. and Israel respond? What would you advise?
I mean, I think the Biden administration is responding pretty effectively. They've deployed these carrier strike groups in the Eastern Mediterranean, replete with 2,000 Marine Expeditionary Force, which is skilled in amphibious landings, humanitarian issues, evacuations of embassies if necessary, and treatment of the wounded. So I'm not sure there's much more the administration can do. It's really not our call. I'm sure that messages have been sent to Iran and to Hezbollah, both directly and indirectly, to warn of the consequences should they seek to escalate. There was some concern earlier on that the Israelis might preempt with a strike against Hezbollah since they're deployed in force up north. But that seems not to be the issue right now. What is the focus right now is the ground campaign in Gaza, and it is very opaque, very unclear on the granular level what the Israelis are actually doing. They've laid out the broad strategy, and they've clearly laid out their end state, their goal, which is the eradication of Hamas as a governing force in Gaza. How they're going to get there, can they get there, and what comes the day after, I think these are all unanswerable questions.
Yeah, that was where I was going to go next with that is, Israel saying that's the goal here is to eliminate Hamas, but what comes after that?
Well, essentially, the Israelis can't and won't and have no intention of occupying Gaza permanently. They would have to participate actively in a buy-in to create a new post-Hamas reality in Gaza, if that's even possible. But it would involve a transitional mechanism, probably with some sort of security force, maybe Arabic-speaking Arab states might be one. You'd end up with a transitional mechanism of Palestinians, presumably governing themselves, with an enormous resourced enterprise by the Europeans and by the Saudis as well. But look, it's the international community, which doesn't have a great history of rising to the challenge in crises. Someone needs to own this. Someone needs to lead it. And frankly, that someone, given how closely we've tethered ourselves to the Israelis during this crisis, whether they want to or not, I think that someone or something is the Biden administration.
Aaron, before I let you go, we have seen repeated calls from Pope Francis, including again yesterday, calling for a peaceful solution to the situation in the Middle East. What role do you think the Vatican or other church leaders could play in trying to end this conflict? And do you think peace is possible?
When you say peace, we're talking about peace between who and whom? Between Israel and the Palestinians, between Israel and the Lebanese, Israel and Iran, Israel and the Syrians. I mean, right now, the blood is up everywhere. Seems to me that both Israeli and Palestinian societies, deeply traumatized, are going to require some sort of interim period. They both have decisions to make with respect to their respective leaderships. A great unhappiness with the current Netanyahu government, profound unhappiness with Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority. Look, the Pope is an extraordinary human with tremendous moral force, certainly among many Catholics. And he ought to be rightly concerned about Catholic interests in the region and, of course, the international peace. But as a moderator, as a mediator, as a force to compel these parties to look for a more enlightened path, I'm not sure there's much of a role for him to play there.
We're going to leave it right there. Aaron, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Happy to do it, Jesse.